what's happened here.
Oh, yeah.
Something went funny. There we go. Okay, hello to whoever's out there. We're running a little late. The bartender was a little slow today on the drink.
It'll take me a little longer next second.
So say hello, whoever's out there. Are you in the picture? Yes, you are. Okay. Move that down here. So we'll just give everybody a couple of seconds here to join us. Hi, Julie. Ooh, I over-zapped the hors d'oeuvres. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Virginia. And so we'll just get started here in just a second. We are having... Oh, Phyllis is here. Hi, Phyllis. We're having peach somethings. What would you call these?
Peach smoothies? I don't know.
Peach with alcohol. And overdone hors d'oeuvres. Because I overzapped them. Just cheese on a cracker with a pickle.
Well, actually, it's peach and strawberry and mango.
What is your thing? Well, Phyllis says fuzzy navels.
More or less.
I haven't looked. Oh, you mean the drink? Okay.
More or less.
Kind of a personal question, isn't it, Phyllis? Fuzzy navel. How about you? Okay. Hi, Andy. Okay. So, if you saw the message that I put up earlier today, just about, the one I always put up announcing when we're doing our live, and I said we didn't really have a topic. Well, we do have a topic, and we'll come to that in a bit. Walter brainstormed this afternoon for topics, and actually came up with a lot of things that for future shows as well. So we have lots of things. Hi, Carol. And so anyways, let's start with our usual opening here. So update on my mother. She's my mother. She's fine. We went over last Tuesday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was in bed again. And this time I said, okay, my standard line, not feeling well? Well, I don't know. That's how she talks to me. Well, if you don't know, who does, Mother? Really? I said, what? So I start to do the diagnosis. Do you have a headache? Do you have an upset stomach? Well, no, not really. And I said, so what's your problem? Well, I've just been tired. That's been her war cry lately. And I think I have a little bit of diarrhea.
Yeah, she had diarrhea, supposedly.
Yeah, that's what she said. I said, okay, has anybody come in and taken a look at you? Which I know that they do. But I said, well, yeah, but they just want me to stay in bed. Yeah, no. I said, well, I'm going to go down and talk to the, I don't know what to call the person that's head on the floor person there, and just find out. And she didn't want me to do that. She doesn't like that because that's how she gets caught in her lies. So I went down and I spoke to one of the people there. Actually, this one I've spoken to several times before. She's there all the time. And I really like her because she's kind of no-nonsense girl. And Mom doesn't like her because she's a no-nonsense girl and she doesn't take any of my mother's crap. And she makes my mother do things that my mother doesn't want to do, like, oh, get out of bed and things like that. So we're talking. And I said, well, she says, she's in bed. And I went, yeah. See, they've got other nurses and that on the floor. And I guess
your mother sort of said something about, oh, wow, the one that came in to change her today allowed her to stay in bed.
My mother cons people. And she knows which nurses she can con and which ones she can't. Hi, Brenda. Yes, we did miss you, Brenda. So, anyways, she says, well, she's not going to be in bed for long because it was going on near to when they get them ready for lunch and everything. And I said to her, good. She needs to be up and about. And she knew nothing about diarrhea. She says, no. And I mean, it's not because they neglect or they don't know what's going on. Those people that work there are right on top of everything. They have notes, everything. They know what's going on. So,
and they would know if she'd had diarrhea.
Oh, yeah.
Because they change her diaper all the time.
yeah, so anyways, geez, that cheese went a really weird color when it melted. So I went back into my mother's room and said, so I'm talking to the nurse down there. No, I don't like her. And I said, yeah, well, apparently they're going to get you up in a few minutes, ready for lunch. And she doesn't know anything about diarrhea. And then my mother goes silent. Because when she gets caught in a lie, that's her method of defending herself. She just goes silent. I guess it's probably not a bad way to do it if you're going to lie to people, because if you just keep silent, there's no argument, right? Really. And my mother's very good at that. So anyways, I don't know what her problem is lately. I think she's feeling a little depressed. I asked her that. I said, are you feeling a little depressed? Well, yeah. And I said, well, why? Well, I don't know. You know, you can't work with a vacuum. I mean, I don't know. So I just let it go. I texted my sister later in the day to let her know, because my sister was probably going to go over that day or the next day. And my sister also told me, oh, yeah, she says, Mom wanted me to pick her up some perfume. And I said, okay, fine, if she wants some perfume. But then Walter reminded me that this place is a scent-free zone. Seen the sign somewhere. So I'm thinking, oh, might not be a good idea. So I told my sister this. And then I was talking to my mother later in the week. And I said, oh, by the way, I said, I hear that you might want some perfume. And I said, I'm going to have to check with them, because this is a scent-free zone. Oh, well, people wear it here all the time. The only thing I smell when I go in there is not perfume. Actually, I don't smell a whole lot.
No.
Which is a good thing in nursing homes. They say that a nursing home that's being looked after properly, you should not smell like urine and crap.
Well, even one that's well kept will eventually have that smell to a point when somebody suddenly has
Well, yeah, when you walk down, you go, oh, you just filled your diaper. But, you know, generally speaking, it does not smell in there. So I said, well, when we're over next week, I said, I'll go and I'll speak to somebody and just ask them about it and see. I mean, if she wants some perfume, fine. I don't have a problem. I'm not going to hold back that she can't have these things or whatnot. But if it's a violation of, you know, what the nursing home is trying to do, then yeah, we're not going to go into violation with that kind of thing. So we'll see. Hi, Jody. So anyway, she's fine as usual. I don't know. I just tried to call her half an hour before we went live, and the phone rang and rang and rang. And when it does that, I know that she's probably sitting right by it, but she can't reach it. And she doesn't make any effort to pick it up.
Or she's in bed.
Or she's in bed again. And I'm telling you, if I go into that place again, if we're over there on Tuesday and she's in bed again, then I'm going to phone the nurse practitioner and I'm going to say, look, there's something not right here. And she's claiming she's not feeling well, but the help say that really she's fine. So what can we do for her, if anything?
Well, remember last couple of weeks, she was talking about how she loved the hospital and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff. Well, while she was in the hospital, she was in bed all the time.
Yeah, and they waited on her hand and foot.
They waited on her, whereas here they don't do that. So.
Well, they do still wait on her, but it's not the way she has this image in her head that a hospital is a wonderful place to be in, and all she did was complain about it for the 4.5 months she was in there anyway. So, and I've reminded her of this. Like, no, that was not ideal, Mother. And I've told her before, you know, if you get put in the hospital they're going to send you right back out as quick as you get in there because they don't want you taking up a bed. And, Mom, the other thing too is you go into hospital, if you do something like claims that she's got herself into bed. I don't think she has because she can't move, basically, because she won't move. But I'm afraid that she does give that a try sometime. She'll slip, she'll fall, she'll break something. She does have osteoporosis. And then she'll be laid up in the bed. And that's a death sentence, pretty much. And I hate to say it, but it might solve a lot of problems. But not the way I want this problem to be solved. So, no. But I don't know what goes through her brain. Anyways, that's her. So we went up to Aurelia, which is a place about an hour and a half north of us, on Friday, because we went up to a quilt store that's there, thimbles and things, and a friend of ours, Kim, who you've heard me talk about before. She's the person who runs Chatterbox Quilts, and you can find her videos on YouTube. But she also runs a membership site, which I'm a member of, called The Quilter's Way. And I've mentioned this before on both my Idiot Quilter and on my vlogs. And she operates out of Calgary. But she was down here for a conference, her and her husband. Her husband went back to Calgary because he works. And she was staying down here to visit her parents because she's an Ontarian originally. Both of her and her husband are. And her parents live in Bracebridge, which is this town that's not that far away from Aurelia. So she was having a little meet and greet and then doing a talk about free motion quilting. So we went up to see her. And at first I thought, you're probably not going to get a lot of people at this because it's a long weekend here in Canada. It's Labor Day weekend for us. I think it's the same in the States too. And I figured there wouldn't be that many, because people are trying to, basically this is the end of the summer. I'm not by the calendar. It doesn't end until September 21st, but the kids go back to school next week and all that. So for all intents and purposes, summer's done. We're into fall. So I just figured everybody would be taking their last hurrah for the weekend. Well, no. There were 19 of us in there for her talk. I think some of the ladies in the place. How come I have 2 straws?
Because the other one, you left the scoop on the bottom, and then you can't suck it right down to the bottom.
Oh, okay, whatever. And I think there were some there that, 2 men in the crowd with these 19 or 17 women as well. But it was a good talk, and yeah, I spent some money on fabric. Well, I bought fabric for the next class I'm taking, and yeah, I bought quite a bit. That cost me about $245. And you bought some fabric, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you got off light. But it was nice to see Kim. And if you are a quilter, check out Chatterbox Quilts on YouTube, and check out The Quilter's Way. Just do a search on Google, and you'll find it. It's very reasonable, the amount that you pay each month. I think it works out to, she charges it in US dollars, but I think for Canadians it works out to about $13 and some odd cents a month. And
so a bit in American dollars, it's what, $10?
Yeah, it's about $10 or $11. I thought the price had gone up a little bit for new people. But anyways, it's around $13, $14 Canadian, around $10, $11 American each month. And she's got all kinds of tutorials on there, and they're very professionally done. And we get together twice a month on Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock our time in Ontario, 2 o'clock her time in Calgary, and who knows what time it is anywhere else in the world. And we have a Zoom meeting, and it's basically a program that we use. It's like Skype. Actually, it works better than Skype, I think. And we all come on there at that time, and we talk. She usually starts off with some sort of a small talk or a tutorial about something, and then we go from there. And actually, it's very nice, very enjoyable. It's a couple of hours, and it's a very social event as well. So we share what we're doing. We talk about other things. So it's, for the price that she's charging a month for this, it's very good value, because there's an awful lot of membership sites in crafting, in quilt making, and all kinds of things that cost you a lot more than that a month. Like, Barb Owen, for example, if you take her, now her courses are very extensive. I realize that, and nothing against Barb because I love Barb. But to join her site in full membership, it's over $400 a year Canadian. So
Canadian or U.S.?
actually, it might be U.S.
Yeah.
That is. So that's a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying you don't get your value's worth out of it, but or anything like that. But I'm just saying, in comparison, that what Kim's offering a very extensive program too that she could charge a lot more for, but she doesn't, and not yet. I hope she sees this. Don't put up your prices, Kim. But it's worth it. So, anyways, it was nice to see her. And while we were up there in Aurelia, we had lunch before we went over to the quilt store. And we're walking down the main street, and there was a bakery, and they advertised butter tarts. Now, you know how I love butter tarts, and I'm a fine connoisseur of butter tarts. I'm always looking for the perfect butter tart, and to date, I haven't found too many that are the perfect butter tart. And
I
I
should
said,
make them again.
yours are perfect. You make them from tender flake pre-made shells and throw
No,
them.
I didn't.
Oh, I thought you did. Well, yours are pretty good. Well, you should make them again. Maybe we could start a market up. The perfect butter tart. Wally's butter tarts. So I bought 6 of those, and I bought. They had some oatmeal cookies with date. They're like date squares, except date cookies. Well, the butter tarts. The filling's okay. The pastry has got a really strange aftertaste to it. It's oily, like rancid oily kind of a taste to it, which doesn't impress me much. And the date cookies looked really good, except when you open up, the oatmeal cookie part is so soft. And I like soft cookies. He likes them hard. I like them soft, chewy, but they just crumble. They disintegrate. So I put them in the fridge, and they still disintegrate.
Well, I think it's sort of like, those jams you get from Hank's or
Yeah.
whatever? They're actually a very hard cookie.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they must put the jam in between, it softens them up, right? Well, maybe they've got a soft cookie, and then they put this filling in it, and it makes it even softer.
No, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, it was a bit of a disappointment, especially with what they charge. Well, it wasn't bad. I mean, 6 butter tarts for $5. Which is funny because their sign said they were $6 for 6 butter tarts, so a buck a tart. But they're showing charge me 5. Maybe as the day goes on, they soak up the oil. I'm looking at them right now. I've only had 1 out of the set. But anyways, it was interesting. And this weekend, because it's long weekend, it's movie weekend. What I mean by that is apparently our local cinema is got rock bottom prices. Well, half price tickets pretty much all weekend. So we got tickets for last night and saw Toy Story 4, which is okay. I mean, it's Toy Story,
The animation is very good.
The animation's always good. And the storyline is kind of, your standard kind of storyline. It's very predictable. But that's fine. And then we're going to see the new Spider-Man movie tomorrow night. Yeah, lots of movies. So that's what we've been up to so far. What's newsworthy? Well, our little tiny Trump that we have in this province, our premier, now the Minister of Education has told everybody that they're putting out guidelines or rules or legislation or something that will limit the use of cell phones by students, by high school students and elementary school students in the classroom.
That's a good question, Prezi. I wasn't sure if Don Rickles was in that. Is Don Rickles still alive?
I don't think Don Rickles is still alive. I don't know, but no, I don't think Don Rickles was in it.
No, because he was one of the voices, I remember.
Was he?
Yeah.
Maybe he was the voice of Mr. Potato Head.
Maybe.
But Mr. Potato Head didn't say anything in this movie. He was there.
No, we did say stuff.
Did he say?
Yeah.
Not much. Well, maybe it was. I don't know. But yeah, didn't know about that. Oh, Tracy says no, he's not dead. So
No.
I thought he was, but I don't know. Yeah, Tracy says No, Mr. Potato Head. Yeah. But I didn't really look. Walter's looking it up now on his phone to see. So, anyways, our Ford is going to try to limit the use of cell phones in the classroom. Well, he's an idiot. He's just an idiot. But it's already limited. All schools have policies in place.
Well, apparently here he died on April 6, 2017.
No, he's dead, Tracy. No, he's dead. She says, no, he's dead. Okay. Boy, Tracy, you can really confuse me. Was Don Rickles in it? No. Mr. Potato Head? No, he's dead. Okay. So he was the voice of Mr. Potato Head when he was alive, but he died 2 years ago. So I don't think he's the voice of Mr. Potato Head.
I don't know. He might be.
What? Unless he did it from... I don't know. Anyways, go see the movie. And maybe you can figure it out from that. So, this is ridiculous, them trying to limit kids on cell phones. Teachers already do that. The kids know what's appropriate and inappropriate, but you're never going to get those cell phones out of their little dirty hands because those are, to them, that's their life. It revolves around a cell phone. So the best you can do is to train them in the etiquette. Of course, mind you, training them in the etiquette as to how to use a cell phone appropriately. When you go into a restaurant and you see parents, adults, with their cell phones out, checking it every 2 seconds, it rings when you're in a nice restaurant and they're on the phone blabbing away about business or something like that. Yeah. What chance do you have of really training the kids how to use a cell phone properly, what the etiquette is, if the older generation, their parents, aren't? So I think it's an uphill battle, and I don't think it's one that's worth really trying to fight. Just embrace the technology, and a lot of teachers do. They use the actual apps and things that they can get for their phone in the classroom setting. So, if you can't beat them, join them.
Apparently Don Rickles was Mr. Potato Head voice in Toy Story 4, and they used archive sound for him.
They used, did they?
Archive sound, yeah.
So Mr. Potato Head's voice is still Don Rickles, even though he's dead. So there you go. And Prey says, no, Stephen asked if he was alive. I said, no. Okay, got it. All right. Anyways, so mystery solved. He's dead, but his voice lives on. Simple as that. Okay, so what was that? So anyways, that about the schools. So that takes us to what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about education. Now, we've talked about education before, but we kind of want to talk about education from the point of view is university and college education. Everybody sends their kids to college and university now. And the question I have is, why? What do you think they're going to get out of going to university and to college? Now, if a kid has a direction, if they've got a career in mind or something and they need to have that level of education for it, fine. But, some kids are just forced to go to university or college because their parents want them to, because their parents want them to be a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, something like that. They want them to be in the social ladder financially where they're going to be making 6-digit salaries and have nice houses and cars. Okay, it's one thing to want nice things for your kids, a good life for your kids. But I think the pressure, and that's what I have seen since I taught students who were bound for university, and it was their parents that were more pushing the issue than the kids. Because a lot of them, you'd say to them, so what are you going to take in university? I don't know. Well, why are you going to university? My mother wants me to. My father wants me to. Do you want to go? I don't know. So there you are. A good example's in my own family. My nephew and my niece both did reasonably well in high school, especially my niece Sarah. She's very, very smart. But university was not her thing. And she went to college. She spent one semester in university. and dropped out, had a job for a little while, and then about a year or so later, she applied for a 3-year program at a local college. And I think it was in biomicrobiology, something. I don't know, in this. And that's what she's got. She did attempt, well, she got accepted to go into university because she was going to take that and build on it into a degree from university, but it just wasn't right for her. So she dropped out of that. And it's not right for every kid for many reasons. Her parents didn't force her to go to university, but she comes from a family of well-educated people. Both her parents have university degrees.
No, actually,
John
doesn't have that. John has a college diploma.
Oh, well, okay, they have post-secondary diplomas and degrees. All right. Grandparents on her father's side, my brother-in-law's side, his mother has a university degree. She was a history teacher. His father is well educated as well. And then on my side of the family, and actually on both sides of the family, all of the uncles and aunts and all that all have university degrees of some sort or other, or college diplomas and whatnot. So, the pressure's there, I guess, for the kid to be the same. And there seems to be a stigma attached to people who don't go to university or college. Like as though it's a class thing, I think. I think it's a class thing. It's like if you don't have a university degree, then if you just have something in the trades or something like that, then you are just a common laborer and, not worth a heck of a lot. And that's a bad attitude, I think, to have.
Well, not only that, there's this idea, like Prissy's put in there, that college-educated people get paid more than.
Yes, they do.
And in some ways they do, but I mean, if you go have a trade, like become an electrician or a plumber or
they make good money.
They make good money too.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily make. They make at least as much as some of the office people do, and stuff like that. I mean, one of the guys I worked with was a math major. Actually, my boss was a math major, and he had a university education. His wife had a university education, and they had a daughter that did well in school, and she ended up getting a university education. But then he had a son, and he didn't do well in school. He hated school. He didn't do any, and he was worried that he wouldn't be able to get on, right? He didn't know what he was going to do. Well, anyway, his son suddenly took a shining to electricity, and he became an electrician. Now he's also got a specialist in HVAC, which does the furnaces and stuff like that. Well, he makes very good money. His dad is ecstatic that he's doing well. And he doesn't have a university education.
And does he like what he does?
And he loves what he does.
So there you go. You see, I know lots of people that went through university and moved into, the kind of jobs you associate with university degrees and hate their job. Or when they came out of university, they couldn't get a job in that field, which tends to be more and more. In fact, my niece, Sarah, applied for something somewhere and they wouldn't hire her because they said she was overqualified. She had too much education as far as they were concerned, which in my way of thinking, that's dumb. That's nuts. I think that's just an excuse because they had somebody else in mind and,
Or they're worried that you're going to be bored and...
Well, maybe, but I don't know. But Tracy's right, though. Well, it used to be, I used to tell the kids years ago, the difference between a college education and a university education, okay, is that you have more opportunity to rise up in whatever profession or career you're going to go in than somebody with a lesser education, which then means you will probably be making more money. But I don't think that's true anymore. I think at the time that I went to university, it certainly was. But I don't think that's true now. Not with, like Walter said, electricians and plumbers and bricklayers and mechanics and that. they make a lot of money. And if they're the kind of person that likes to work with their hands, they like that kind of thing, then why should anybody look down their nose at them because they don't have a university degree? In fact, university degrees are a dime a dozen. I mean, everybody has a bloody university degree, it seems, anymore. And a lot of them have useless degrees. My sister and my brother both have useless degrees. They have degrees in history and political science. Neither one has ever used their degree. I used my degree, but that's because I had to have a degree to be a teacher. So I've used my degree. But, you know, it's not for everybody. Let's see. What's being said? Virginia says, the student loans in the U.S. are so large and it takes 10 years or more to get them paid off. Yes, they're large here too. Astronomical amount of money that they have to pay today. I mean, when I went to university, yes, it was from 1976 to 1981. 5 years of university probably cost me back then maybe $15,000. That included books, residence, living, everything. Now, $15,000 won't get you the first year for that kind of thing. So, you know, it's another thing. Parents put their kids into university and that, and they may be footing the bill, and there's extra pressure on the kid. You know, they're paying for this, and they expect me to perform. Like, my nephew, I thought he was graduating in June. Found out he didn't. He has one more course to take. He's already been, has he been there 5 years now? Or has it been 4?
I'm not sure.
And one or the other. Thing is, he's not dumb, but I don't think he really wants to leave university because he lives in the same place. He lives in Ottawa, which is the university he's going to, the University of Ottawa. He's got a part-time job at a Banana Republic, which I have a feeling right now is probably more full-time than part-time as far as hours are concerned. And I think he loves living in Ottawa. And he likes the life he's living right now, which is that of basically a student. His parents are helping him. I don't know how much they're helping him, but I know they're helping him. And I do know that his education to date has cost upwards close to $80,000, which his parents have paid most of that with it. And I'm not saying anything against that, but a lot of pressure there on the kid, right? So I don't know. My narcissist mom, Tracy says, discouraged me and my sister from college because she's a narcissist and she didn't want us to be better than her. Community college should be free like healthcare. I was going to go to Craft Institute in Philly for fashion design, but good old mom told me I'd crash in the snow on the way home every day. Yeah, okay, so there's the exact opposite. Actually, my parents didn't encourage me one way or the other. It was me who wanted to go to university. They didn't say I couldn't go. They didn't say they wanted me to go. In fact, there was no discussion.
You paid your own way.
Well, I paid my own way. But I mean, it was like no one else in my family had ever been to university. I was the first one. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so I knew how to get a degree. But there was no discussion one way or the other about it. I just said, yeah, I'm going to go to university. That was it. Whereas I've taught kids that have been in tears because they don't want to go to university, but mommy and daddy are telling them they're going to go to university, and mommy and daddy are telling them what they're going to take in university and all that kind of stuff. Well, excuse me, they may be your children, but it's not your life. Let your children live their life. Let them make, at that age, when they get to that age, it's time for them to make some decisions about their future. And if they make the wrong ones, then they will have to learn from those mistakes and carry on. But these parents helicopter around them, and these kids never ever understand what it's like to be responsible to yourself and accountable. Because they've always got their parents to fall back on. I mean, look at the number of people who are 40 years old, go through a divorce and move back in with mommy and daddy. Yeah. If I had children that did that, I'd just kill me now. Well, I don't have any kids, so I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I really think that a lot of times the decisions that are made about higher education are made by the parents, and the kids have no say. And it's bragging rights. Oh boy, is it bragging rights. Because I have been to all kinds of different parties and that with people going, oh yes, my daughter's going to U of T. She's going to be a brain surgeon. Oh yes, well my son is in the veterinarian college at Guelph and he's going to have his own practice. My son, the dentist, my daughter, the GP, whatever, and all this stuff. And it all seems to hover around three professions: doctors, lawyers. I guess that's the only two. Yeah.
Veterinarians,
Veterinarians.
pharmacists.
Anything that's considered a profession. And I don't think it's necessarily just because of the money they'll make. I think it has to do with the bragging rights the parents have. You see that a lot. I saw that when I was doing parent-teacher interviews, the way they would come in. They'd be so competitive too. Well, why did my daughter only have 98 in your class? Because she's stupid and she sucks and she's lucky she got 98. That went through my head, didn't say it. It says, damn good mark. It's English. You know, anything over about a 65 is considered not bad. Yours is sitting at 98, should be writing a World Pulitzer Prize winning novel really soon or something. Well, no, but they need to get into, and in Canada, there is more prestige, it seems, for parents to send their children to universities in the States. Quite frankly, and I will say this, why waste your money sending them to a university in the States? Because quite frankly, the level of university education in our country is far superior to that in the States. There, I said it. Let the onslaught happen. I mean...
And it's expensive.
And yeah, to go to the States as a Canadian to university, it's double the tuition, if not 3 times the tuition, because you're considered a foreign student. But you know, why? I mean, you used to work with, or not work with, a woman you knew. She sent both her girls to...
lady I used to do the stained glass at. Both her daughters went to a university in the U.S., but it wasn't a famous one. It wasn't, you know, one of the big names that you would associate with the universities. And I said, well, why are you sending them to university there? And they said, well, that's because her husband went to university in the U.S. And that's where they decided that to send them. The problem is that one was taking nursing. And the problem is that if you take nursing in the U.S. and then come back to Canada, you have to take another course here to get recertified for Canada.
Yeah.
Because standards are higher here.
And in reverse of that, I've known people who have gone to the States to teach, got their teaching qualifications here, went to the States to teach, absolutely hated it because teachers in the States are not paid the same as teachers in Canada. They're not protected the same way as teachers are protected in Canada. And they have to perform. If the kids aren't getting good marks, they blame the teacher, not the fact that your kid is stupid, kind of a thing. And it's ridiculous, and so they don't usually like it afterwards that they went there, which is nuts why they did. Well, some of them went because they couldn't get a job here in Canada at one point, depending on when it was. It was hard to get teaching jobs here. So they went to the States instead, but I don't know. And then we have people who go through to become doctors here, and they go to the States because they can make more money in the States. The only problem is they got to pay a lot for insurance, for malpractice stuff.
We've had nurses from here go to the U.S. as well because they can make more money in the U.S. than they can here.
Especially if they go into a private hospital or something like that, where the Richies end up. So, yeah. But back to this whole thing about education. It's a stigma. I mean, I have 3 university degrees. And you want to know something? That doesn't come up often in a conversation. Where I go, oh yes, I have 3 university degrees.
I have a college diploma. That's a 2-year.
I'm so much smarter than you because I have 3, count them, 3 university degrees. Yeah, big deal. I have 3 university degrees because I had to have 3 university degrees to do what I did. But, you know, so what? Nobody cares. In fact, I often thought when I'd retired that I might go back to university and try to get my doctorate because I have a master's degree. And why would I want that? So people could call me Dr. Bland instead. Yeah, well, I'm over that. But, you know, there's all these ones that go into the profession, or not the professions, into the areas that we need people in, the trades. We're desperate for trade people. In fact, the point where the government has programs that will help pay them to work in a trade and be an apprentice and learn it, you know, at the same time, help them out with it. That's how desperate we are for people into that. But many people think that if you are a construction worker or if you're a plumber or something like that, that's lower class.
Even like when I was saying to you earlier today about if you're a teacher in a college or whatever, and people that work in support staff like clean the floors and do cafeteria duty and all that other stuff, some people look down on those people because they're not as well educated as maybe the teachers are, but they're still providing a valuable service for everybody.
A school can't run without them.
Yeah.
There is no way a school can run without the support staff because they do so much that's in there. And teachers know this. But, you know, I've seen parents come in on parents' night and treat the support staff like dirt because they figure, well, you're not important. You're just a janitor, or you're just a teacher's aide or something like this.
It's like people that treat people that are servers in restaurants and that poorly too, because they don't feel that they have a big enough class or whatever, or you know, they're not high class enough.
No, I've met a lot of people that are supposedly high class that are dirt in my life. But back to the kids and the whole bit too with this, I think there needs to be a new culture put in and tell kids, you know, if you're not comfortable with going to university, if you don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer, but you want to work with your hands, or you're interested in electricity or something, or you know, all that kind of stuff, then they should be able to go ahead and pursue that. Because you know, you get into this. Well, let's take a look at specialists, shall we, in the doctor's field. Okay, here is probably the upper echelons in people's minds. You know, doctors are up here because of their education. You know, it takes 7 years to get all this stuff or whatnot, and lawyers too, and all that kind of stuff. Then you have to article, have residency, blah, blah, blah. And then you get the specialists. So they're up here. Most specialists have the personality of an artichoke. Most of them are so, are so detached from what's going on in everyday life that they're not nice people, specialists. Now I'm making a blanket statement. Yes, I know. And someone's going to probably come in and go, oh no, they went to a specialist, it's wonderful and that. And I'm sure there are some that are wonderful. But a lot of them they're pure intellectuals. They are like Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory. They haven't got a clue how to handle human beings at all. And most of them are only interested in their specialization. And they see the patient not as a human being, but just as another thing I can experiment on. Now, sorry if others of you would disagree with me on that, and I'm sure some of you will, but that's my experience with them, and that's all I can speak from is my experience. So, you know, sometimes the people with the higher educations too tend to be the people that are less in touch with what's going on with the world as well. So there is that. Tracy says, I'd say most people with diplomas or GEDs in their 40s regret not going to college. Okay, I'm just analyzing what you're saying here. Say most people with, high school diplomas or GEDs. Okay, I get it. In their 40s regret not going to college.
It depends on. I think it would depend on what they're doing work wise and how satisfied with they are with what they are doing. I know lots of people that don't have a college or university education that have done very well for themselves.
Yeah.
And they're not sorry that they never went to university or college.
Well, I'm sure there are some that do regret
Yeah.
a decision they made then for whatever reason they made the decision at the time. I mean, that decision may have been made because they didn't have the money or they didn't have the support at home to do that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to go to university or college. Far from it. Really. Some of the best years of my life were
We're just sort of saying that there are other alternatives for people to do, and they're not always looked at. And society sometimes doesn't look at. Society may put a doctor or on a level way high up, right? But they don't put a plumber up there.
No.
They don't look at a plumber as being that's just a plumber, right? But I mean, the plumber may be making as much as this doctor is making.
Yeah. My father he didn't even have a high school education. He dropped out of high school when he was in grade 12. Well, he kind of had to do that because he was having me. But he got a job with Ontario Hydro. He went to journeyman lineman school over that time. And that's what he loved. My father lived to climb up the top of a hydro pole and do all the stuff that had to be there. My father was obsessed with his job. He loved his job.
To the point where he took pictures of every hydro box and wire around that
transformer pole. You say, oh, there's where the 44,000 is going through the KBD there, so that'll hit down to this breaker down there, and if this goes out, okay. We never ever got lost though on country roads. My father could tell where we were by looking at a hydro line because he knew where that hydro line was leading to. And so, but he loved his job. He loved his job. Absolutely loved it. So there was one. Of course, my father never had the opportunity to go to university or college, but I don't think he ever really wanted to in the first place. But it was the 50s, so...
My dad wanted to go to higher education, but he was in... he grew up in the 1920s and 30s, and he in Holland, and his dad was a painter by profession, right? Like a house painter type thing, right? And they sort of forced my dad into that business. And my dad did actually go to school in those days, it was a big trade to become a painter, because in those days they mixed their own paints and they mixed their own colors and their paints. It's not like today where you go to Walmart and they mix your paint for you and stuff like that. It used to be in the 20s and 30s that painters had to figure out color combinations to make their own paints.
Which today, you could get a university degree in that. It's called chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
But, so you see. So, your father was a professional. He knew how to do this stuff. I mean, other people don't know how to do that kind of thing. And he learned that. So, you see, it's still no sense looking down your nose at people like that, because we need them. And what they know in their skill, just because they don't have a piece of paper that says they have a degree in paint mixing or something like that, doesn't mean that they're any less stupid than anybody else that did go to university for it. So it's a stigma thing. Jody says, I get upset when people try to get their student loans dismissed or forgiven. I don't think that's right. Pay up. Yeah, I agree. But in this country, they have made getting a higher education only for the rich. You have to have a lot of money. I mean, it was expensive in my day, but now I don't know how. I would never, if I was in the same situation that I was in when I was growing up, I wouldn't have been able to afford to go to university at today's market price, if that makes any sense. It was way out of the league. And parents are going in and taking out huge loans and second mortgages to send their kids to university.
And now, actually, and there's a lot of people that are actually other things are happening. Like the kids like being in school so much that they want to take more courses once they graduate from one
Yeah.
course. Like there's one guy I worked with that he put his kid through university and he graduated and everything, and then his kid said, well, he was going to take another 4-year course or something like this, and his dad sort of turned around and said to him, well, that's fine, but you're paying for
Yeah.
university education number 2.
Well, I really think, and then some of these parents get really uptight because the kid comes out of high school and says, I want to take a year off and travel or work or something like that. And the parents don't want them to do that because they figured they'll never go to university then once they get out of the habit of being in school and all that kind of stuff. Well, in our country, now that we don't have grade 13 anymore, you're 17 years old. It's been like this in the States forever, but in Canada, you're 17 years old when you go into university. I was 19 when I went into university because I had to go to grade 13. And so my birthday falls in the summer, so I was 18 years old. Actually, I was 18 years old when, no, I wasn't. I was 19 when I went into university. And so I was legal age for drinking, for one thing. Because it was 18 in those days. It's now 19 here in our province, but it was 18. So I was legal age for drinking. I was considered legal age for making any kind of binding contracts or anything like that. I was an adult. But 17-year-olds are going into university. They're not legal for 2 years to drink. Not that that's going to stop them, but university has a lot of temptations around it in all kinds of ways. And for a 17-year-old, this may be the first time in their life they've ever lived away from home, and it's party time. And it was that way too when I went. But there's a lot of difference between a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old. Didn't mean I didn't do crazy things. I did. But I also knew that I had to work because I wasn't wasting my money, for one thing, with this, and I had a goal. And that's the other thing. I think a lot of kids come out of high school and they don't know what they want to do.
And they don't really have a goal.
And so their parents force them into a goal that they may not be happy with. Colleges in the U.S., Tracy says, are expensive to make them unattainable to average Joes. Most college tuition goes to support the football franchises. Yeah, I know that the universities and colleges in the States are very sports oriented. Not so much here in Canada. I mean, we have them. We have the teams and the whole bit. But there doesn't seem to be the same emphasis placed on those as they are in the universities in the States. They need people to be janitors, so they're priced out college for most. They need people to be janitors, so they've priced out college for most. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you saying that because they, and you've got it in quotation marks, so the establishment needs janitors, they've made the price of college unattainable for the average person? Kind of a thing. And yes, I think that's true. I think that's true in Canada as well. Used to be a lot of government help with that kind of thing. Not anymore. You used to be able to get a grant and then a loan. And the grant you didn't have to pay back. There's no grants
Tracy
anymore.
says yes, you read it right.
Good. I'm getting better. So yeah, I think that they have become too expensive. I mean, you come out of university and like Jody's saying, they're trying to get their loans dismissed and that. You're paying, once you come out of university, you're paying for the next 10 years of your life trying to pay that student loan off. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them go default on that. And I don't know what happens when they do that. How much of a pursuit there is on them to pay it, or how that.
Well, it screws up their credit rating.
Well, yeah. Price says, yeah, keep them dumb. Yeah. But anyways, Pouring my peach. You're dripping.
Yeah.
Drippy, drippy, drippy. Um, yeah, I just think that higher education, it's not a bad thing, but I think you have to have a specific goal in mind for what it is that you're going to take. Phyllis says, unfortunately, sports bring in the big bucks. Bottom line counts. Yeah, and that's the other thing about universities and colleges. They are businesses. They're not doing it for their health or anybody else's health. They're doing it because they have a board of I don't know, trustees or whatever, and they got to show a profit. And if people who work for universities, like professors and things like that, a lot of pressure on them to do research, to get the university on the map as being, a leader in, say, cancer research or something like that. And professors are not interested in teaching. They're interested in doing research in their area of specialization because they're academics, and writing. Because in order to keep their positions in the university, they must publish. And they must publish their findings and their research, and they have to go for grants and stuff and fight to get money. So really, you have to then question the quality of the education that anybody's getting in a university or college. If the professors there are more interested in keeping their job and doing their own thing, the teaching part is just a pain in the butt, something the university makes them do with it. And of course, university professors are not teachers. They don't have formal teacher training. Some do. Some do. Actually, I always knew the best professors, the ones I liked the best that I thought were really good, 9 times out of 10, they had started their career as a high school teacher. And then, so they'd taken teacher training, and then they decided to move into being professor at university. And you could tell they were organized. They knew how to do a proper lesson plan. The ones that didn't have a clue were the pure academics. I had one professor walked in, Victorian novels. I'll never forget this guy because I think he was around when they were written, because that's how old he was. He'd walk in. He was a scary man too. He was a tall man, wore a 3-piece suit, came in, threw down a huge binder on top of the lectern. And how he opened it up to exact page he wanted, I don't know. But every time, you just whoop, and he'd start to read. And you didn't dare not listen to him or start to drift away, which was really easy to do because suddenly he'd turn around, look up and go, Mr. Bland, in Tessa the D'Urbervilles on page 459, second paragraph, third word in, what's the symbolic quality of that line? I don't know. And if you didn't give him the right answer, he would basically embarrass you in front of the rest of the class. So, yeah, he was not a good professor. He's got to be dead now. Good. And yet I had another professor. I took several of his courses. I knew he had a background in teaching, and he was absolutely wonderful. In fact, at one point, I was thinking when I got my first degree of staying on, because there weren't many teaching jobs, and staying on and doing my master's in English. And I went and saw this professor to talk about this with him. And I said, well, I had to go in and talk to him because I had taken a class at the 400 level, which was called the Comprehensive Seminar, which basically you had to study 1,000 years of literature and come up with a theory about something and write a paper, and then you had to defend the paper. It was sort of like defending your thesis. But he was really good. I went and said to him, so he said to me, so you want me to talk about that particular thing? And I got a really good mark on it. I did get an A. And he said, what were my plans when I graduated? And I said, well, I was going to be a high school teacher, an English teacher. And he said, well, that's fine. But I said, yeah, but I'm not so sure now whether maybe I should stay on for a couple of more years and get my master's degree because there's not many teaching jobs out there. And he turned around and he said to me, he says, I think you would be right to not stay. Now, first thing I took that meaning, oh, You gave me a good mark, but you think I'm not cut out to be an academic in university life or ever be a professor or something like that. No, what he said meant was he said, some people, he said, learn to be a teacher. Other people are born to be teachers. And he says, you were born to be a teacher. See, I had to teach when I was there too. So he says, you already have that ability. And he says, if you want to do that, you'll find a job. And he was right. I did. And I did find a job. But, you know, he was one of the few that I remember as being a good professor. So, I don't know how I got onto that. Karen Bot? I've never seen that name before. Hello, welcome. Karen Bot. Oh, dang, I had to read Tess of the D'Urbervilles be in high school. Talk about one of the most depressing stories I ever actually had to read. I love mini classics, but boy, oh boy. If you want people to love the classics, you don't start with that one, or even second or third. You want to know something, ironically? Thomas Hardy, of course, wrote Tess of the D'Urbervilles. In grade 12 English, when I was taking grade 12 English, that was the book I had to read. I was the only one in the class that finished it, and that's when I fell in love with Thomas Hardy. And I think I have read pretty much every book Thomas Hardy ever wrote. And I think and I actually do have a certain amount of love for Victorian novels. Although I'm not so sure about Jane Austen. But, well, she's not really Victorian. She's just slightly before the Victorian age. But, yeah, so I got turned on to it in high school, whereas everybody else got turned off of it. But I guess that was going to be an English teacher. Also, a lot of places, they have to pay you more if you have a master's, but they won't hire a master's with no high school teaching experience. So a lot of people get the job and then get their master's. Yeah, I didn't have my master's when I started teaching. I got that while I was teaching. I did it part-time to finish it. And the only reason I did my master's at that point then was that was a means to an end. I did it part-time. I did it in education. And the reason I did it was because at that point in my career, I thought I might someday want to move into administration, become a principal. And you had to have either you had to have a master's degree to do that in those days, or you had to have 2 specializations and half a master's or something like this. So I got my master's degree. Ironically, I never became a principal because I even took the principal's papers at one point, so I was qualified to be a principal. Just I knew they'd fire me after about the first day because I would have said to somebody, hey, you must have mistaken me for someone who gives a shit. Move on.
Phyllis, those are Philips Hue lights that are changing color.
Oh, yeah, they're our table lamps. They change color all the time. Ooh, disco. What else? But getting a master's, Kieran Bowd says, before you get the job can keep you unemployed because they won't pay the extra master's supposed to give you when you haven't got experience teaching. Oh, okay, we already read that. I'm just trying to catch up here. Yeah, I said a lot of places have to pay more for a master's degree. They do and they don't. I suppose in some jobs they do. I did in mine.
Yeah.
But that's because it put me in another category when I was getting that. But yeah, they did pay me for the extra degree as well. So yes, I also took it in AP English. Oh, okay, that's the special courses for getting university credits before you graduate from high school, isn't it? We have somewhat of that program, but it's relatively new in our field. I love Victorian stories, but I'm more a Jane Austen fan, that and the horror classics. Yeah, I did read a Jane Austen, and I read Pride and Prejudice, and for some reason I was able to avoid it in university. Never did a Jane Austen in university, but I read it just actually for the first time a couple of years ago, and actually I did kind of like it. So, because I tried to read Jane Austen, one of her books, back, many, many, many decades ago, and just couldn't get into it, but yeah, it must be something that comes with age. I don't know. Of course, My favorite is Shakespeare. Though I haven't read any Shakespeare since I retired. I may have lost my touch. I may not understand what it means anymore. Well, anyways, I guess the whole point about university education and college education, in this day and age of the way our economics are going and the expense of it, I think people need to seriously sit down with their children and really discuss honestly what does the kid really want to do, because it's the kid's life. It's not the parents' life. They've had their opportunity. They've had their chance. So move over. And if you're going to be miserable in your job every day of your life, and you may be getting a 6-digit salary, and you may be called doctor or whatever.
I think they should also guide kids into necessarily taking garbage courses that ends up them having a university education, but then you get out and they can't get a job.
No, well, you mean what? You're taking
Garbage
like
course. Political science or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Let's talk about the useless degrees, shall we? Because there's a lot of them. Okay? Useless degrees are ones like fine arts. Yeah. Everybody I know that's got a fine arts degree certainly isn't using it. I mean, there's a difference between being an artist and having a fine arts degree. And I have found that a lot of times the people with fine arts degree are not necessarily artists. They're people who want to get into being curators of art galleries or acquisitions and collections and that kind of stuff in an art gallery. And how many jobs are there in art galleries? And they
usually don't.
And
pay
they
well.
don't. At least in this country, they don't pay well because they depend upon grants. So if you're a grant writer, you can get a job. Because there are people who actually do take training in being grant writers, but their whole job is to write things to certain organizations and governmental agencies and things like that to get money for it, for these kind of not-for-profit organizations and things like that. I know you from being in the Pink Poodle Crafts crowd occasionally. That's when I subscribed. Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't been in that group in a while. And Jimmy Kimmel's daughter's using her fine arts degree. Some do. But, tell me what you're going to do with a political science degree. My nephew was taking that because he was going to be a politician. Okay. I think he's changed his mind on that since. And like I said, my brother and my sister both have political science and history degrees. She's got a history degree and political science, I think. I think she's got the same thing as Craig has. It's my brother. And she doesn't use either one of those. Kirba says, I actually got a degree in education, including the 5th year that was supposed to be half of a master's, which is how they do it at the KU teaching program. But I didn't get a job right out of college. What's KU teaching program? Where are you from? Are you from the States, or I don't know what KU is. I ended up getting a job in the printing industry, and that led to the web industry. Now I'm in Laugh Out Loud, San Francisco, so I escaped Kansas. Oh, so Kansas U? Mm-hmm. Is that what KU is? All right. So, are you happy with what you do then? Because that is, you're suggesting to me, at least I'm reading, is that that's the road you went down and that you're happy about that. Yes, I had an absolutely fantastic senior English teacher, and I ended up getting a 5, which was 9 hours of college credit. And in fact, I have to do an essay on Tessa. I had to do an essay on Tessa the D'Urbervilles. Yeah, I did too. When I was a student. I ended up getting a 5. I don't know what a 5 is. Is that like a grade point average thing or something? Because that's not how our system works up here. So sorry, I just don't know what that is. 5. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not down on university or college education. If anything, yeah, I'm all for it. But for the sense that young people have to know why they're doing this. It's not just to go and have a good time and drink. Although it can be that. Unlike a lot of her contemporaries, she was not a fan of a lot of the stuffy behaviors and conventions of her time, and most of her books are subtly making fun of them. Yes, yes, I know. You're talking about Jane Austen now, yeah. So, anyways, what else can we say about this topic? You brought it up. What other thoughts did you
Well,
have?
no, I just thought that like there's lots of people that aren't really in tune with higher. What's that? They're not. They don't tend to do well in the academic subjects, and then but they may have an interest in building or doing things or something like that.
Yeah.
So then they'll go off to their parents are trying to force them into going to university where they may be just happy doing something like construction or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's their life. It's not their parents' life, it's their life. So they have to live it the way they want to live it. What's that? I completely. It's too expensive to just be a place to park someone who hasn't decided what to do with their life. I got my degree over 10 years working my way through it. Eventually didn't even end up using it except as a gateway to a professional job. Yeah.
I mean, there was lots of people that I worked in computer industry, and a lot of the people that at my age when I started in the industry either started with a college diploma or they might have a university degree in computer science, or there were lots of people that had math degrees or were professional engineers or something. They couldn't get a job in their field, so they ended up in computer systems because there were lots of jobs there. So my boss had a math degree, but he didn't actually go through computer science or anything like that. He had a math degree because he had trouble finding a job with his math degree.
Yeah. Kiribati says, unless somebody actually has a passion for some university topic, I think they should concentrate more on training for well-paid trades or other jobs and not start life with a huge college debt. Yeah, true. Well, you want to know something? I have an English degree. You know how much of that degree, even though I was an English teacher, that I've actually used, talking about in some ways a useless degree. The stuff I learned at university, I would never be able to use in an English classroom at high school level because it's way above those kids. Like you don't use it. But I had to get that to be an English teacher. So simple as that. And I think sometimes, see, universities are based on a very old, hundreds of years old idea. In Europe, back 500 years ago, people would go to university there. But what you did was you showed up one day, you got a mentor, which was a professor or whatever, and they'd say, okay, go out, find these books, go to these places, travel Europe, gather all this knowledge. When you're ready, come back and I will test you. And then you may or may not get your degree out of it. That's how it was done back then. And now universities see it's that the idea of exploring knowledge. That's what universities are really for. Going off and exploring knowledge. And I used to tell kids too, I used to say to them, if you think you're going to go to university and you're going to get a degree and you're going to walk into a 6-digit salary when you come out and you're going to be like in, the management, upper echelons of management, think again. You're going to have to start all over again at the bottom. I used to say to them, it's like when you hit grade 8, you were at the top of the food chain in your school. Then you went to grade 9, you were the bottom of the food chain. Then you got to grade 12 and you were on top of the food chain. Now you're going to start at the bottom again when you go to college or university, and you're going to work your way up on that. But when you get out into the business world, guess what? It doesn't matter how many degrees you've got. It doesn't matter how bloody smart you are. It doesn't matter who your parents are. You're still probably, unless your father owns the business or your mother owns the business, you're going to start at the bottom and you're going to have to prove yourself all over again because that's how life works. And they just look at you like, no.
No, what do you know? You're an old fart.
Yeah, what would I know? An old fart.
My nephew did. You told him about what university life was like.
Yeah.
And he turned around and said to my sister, well, what's he know? He's an old fart. He doesn't know anything about this. And not the way things happen today. And then when he actually went to university, he suddenly got changed his tune because it was exactly the way it was.
Mm-hmm. And it still works that way too.
And even like I know other people that got out of university and they thought, well, they were going to get into forensic science and they were going to work for the RCMP and they were going to make $200,000 a year and all this other stuff. Turns out it's not so easy to get into the RCMP, and they think forensic science is what they see on TV and all this other stuff, but it's not. I don't think it's like that in real life.
No,
so.
I'm pretty sure it's not that way in real life. Priest says, I wish Stephen had a Discord channel. What's a Discord channel? Oh, Pracy, what are you trying to get me into now? And Kieran Bog says, I don't think I'm saying that right. Kieran Butt? Absolutely. My parents are both teachers. My grandparents are teachers, and I saw how all their life was sucked up by being a teacher and held responsible for raising other people's kids and getting treated like crap by the administrations and so forth. When I get home from work, I'm done. I don't have to mortgage the rest of my life to grading papers and mandatory game attendance, etc. And Price says it's a program to chat and share ideas. Oh, okay. There's an idea. Yeah, Karen Bott. Yeah, you're right about that when it comes to being a teacher. But there's a lot of rewards in being a teacher. And I'm not talking about... Okay, here's the standard line. Now I digress a little bit. But here's the line. Why do people want to become teachers? Okay? Here's the nice answer. Because I see a whole generation of young people that are going to be taking over the world, and I want to make sure that they learn to be good citizens and smart and intelligent politicians who are going to take us out of the darkness and bring us into the light. What gag? No. I'll tell you why I want to be a teacher. Because I'd experienced working in jobs in a factory, in a desk job, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. It was boring, it wasn't challenging, and I'm a creative person. And I thought by being a teacher, I would be able to do something that would be different every day and would be creative. What I didn't realize until I became a teacher was the other crap I'd have to put up with. But I balanced the two. Was I there because I was trying to shape the world and make it a better place? Oh my God, they'll take my teaching credentials away from me. Too late, I'm retired, they can't have them. No. I became a teacher for selfish reasons. I wanted to do something that would make me happy, that I would enjoy. And yes, I did help students, and I did enjoy working with the kids and all that kind of stuff. But if I hadn't liked my job, if I picked something else to do and I hadn't liked my job, I would have been miserable. And there's a lot of people in jobs that they're miserable in. They count down the number of days before they retire for years. Well, that's counting down to your death. You know, I didn't want to get up every day and go, oh God, I got to go to work. Although there were some days that did happen. I didn't want to be working for the weekend. Although sometimes that did happen too. That's why teachers drink a lot. I wanted something that was going to be different every day, something that would, allow me to be creative. And I found it. And being an English teacher is probably the best job to have, except for the marking load. Because the marking load is horrendous as an English teacher. It's horrible. Did not enjoy that. But I could do almost anything that I wanted to do, because with literature, when you're teaching literature and stuff like that, it's just endless possibilities. Kim said that we need good teachers. I think what got me a 5, though, was the comparison paper I did between Ionesco's Rhinoceros and Kafka's Metamorphosis, comparing the different symbology of transformation into an animal. Oh, geez, you're an intellectual. Yeah. I'll pretend I understand what you're talking about. In the AP English test, you can get from 1 to 5. If you get a 3, you get 1 class worth of credit, which is 3 credits. If you get for you to get 6, and if you get a 5, you get 9 hours. Okay. Tracy, I honestly don't think I was cut out to be a teacher, at least the way they run it Midwestern school systems. They expect a lot of free unpaid hours and don't pay very well. Yeah, that's the American system. It's different in Canada. Come to Canada and be a teacher. With the amount of education you need to become a teacher, you can get a much better paid job, and that's just the truth. Until they start paying teachers better, they're not going to get. Yeah, oh yeah. Yep, I definitely agree with that. Enough of the quality teachers that they need. Some teachers who are supported by a partner who's also a breadwinner can afford the sacrifice of being a teacher, and the school systems are fortunately
We're fortunate.
are fortunate. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Teachers are underpaid, for sure. But there's a lot of people in society that think they're overpaid, like the government, because that's who they always attack first. Yeah. So, anyways, anything else? See, I was just checking everything else. So I guess I thought we kind of came up with this topic because, of course, this is the weekend before all.
Prezi says the Republicans defund education constantly. It's just like our conservative
Yeah.
government,
Same with our conservative government.
which is basically our Republicans. So
Yeah. Yeah, same thing happens here as well. Systems are fortunately filled with better systems really deserve, but as life is getting harder and the economics of middle class get more dire, fewer and fewer of those good teachers. Actually, what's coming out of the teachers' colleges right now, in my opinion, suck. They're coming out older. Teaching is not an old person's job, okay? It's a young person's job. You need a lot of energy to keep up with the kids and everything. And there are people who are coming into, they've done other things, they've got a degree, they've gone into the business world or something like that. They've done whatever they did there for a few years, suddenly they're 30, and they think, oh, I don't like this kind of 9 to 5 drag thing that I'm doing now, but I'm really smart and have a lot of knowledge, so I think I should become a teacher. So they go and they take teachers college. Then they walk in and they think it's going to be a breeze. I know this as a fact because I used to be what they called an associate, meaning that I had student teachers from the universities, and they'd be assigned to me, and I would basically spend a couple of weeks with them doing the practical part of education. And I'll never forget the one guy. He was 30, I think, or 31, had been in business for a few years, had gone back to university, got his teacher's degree, and here he was about to do his practicum, as his student teaching work. So I said to him one day, the day that he was supposed to be on his own, I was not even going to be in the classroom. He would have my kids. He would do a full class lesson from beginning to end. He'd already been in to observe. He'd already done some little mini lessons here and there, but now this is the big time, the big one. And I remember saying to him, okay, shall we go over your lesson plan for today? The idea was, being the associate, being the mentor kind of thing, I'd go through the lesson plan and I could point out to him some of the pitfalls he might have and just give him some advice with it. He didn't have a lesson plan. Yeah, he says, I didn't quite get that done. I got waylaid by the baseball game on TV last night. And I looked at him and went, what? You're trying to qualify to become a teacher. You haven't got your teacher's degree yet. I have to evaluate you. And this is what you're telling your associate? That you haven't written your lesson plan? And he didn't seem to care. In fact, he had a briefcase, nice briefcase. The only thing in it was a sandwich. But he thought he knew everything. So he had one of my worst classes of that semester, and they were terrors. And it took me a long time to get them shaped up. In fact, I never did really, truly get this class shaped up. To let you know how bad it was, I decided to apply for what they called in those days an EIL, Educational Improvement Leave, because I walked in my classroom and had to disarm a kid with a scalpel as he was trying to stab another kid in my class. I'm sorry, this is not the States, it's Canada, and that was in the 80s. So, whatever, not an inner city school and that kind of thing. So, rough bunch. So, I said, okay, well, they're all yours today. So I was in the class, And just before he walked into the classroom, I was I had to do the paperwork, attendance and all that stuff. So I did that. And I said, okay, Mr. Whatever his name is, let's just call him Jerkhead, is coming in to teach you today, and I won't be here when he does it. So I said, I want you to be just your usual selves. And one smart ass kid, I think it was the one with the scalpel later, he said to me, do you really mean that, sir? Well, I knew what he was talking about. And I said, I want you to do what you would do on any given day in this classroom. And so I left, and he came in, and I watched through the glass in the door. He was talking to these kids about the etymology of a certain word. These were what we called in those days general level students. They were not your academic. They were, the kids who everything you taught them was on a much more, less theory, more practice on things. And he's up there going on about the roots of a certain word from the, Anglo-Saxon to Middle English. And they're grade, I think they were grade 10s or grade 11s, I can't remember. And I could see the kids like snickering and starting to throw paper balls around the whole bit. They destroyed him. They threw things at him. They wouldn't pay any attention. He was red in the face. He couldn't get control of the class. I didn't go in. I didn't intercede because this is part of the learning process. So after the class was over, I said to him, so how did you think it went? Oh, it was great. No problem. And I looked at him and said, really? Okay. I just let it go. I had seen what I had seen. There was nothing great about it. I think that was the day, too, I decided I was not going to be an associate anymore because I'd had several bad experiences where he wasn't the only one that was like that. But see, they thought you could walk into a classroom, and because you're so much older than they are and so much wiser, you just spew forth. It just comes out of you with no plan, and they'll hang on every word you say, every golden word of wisdom. No, it don't work that way. No. Wonder if he ever did get a teaching job. Oh, and I had one that refuted me, too. I did not give them an excellent mark. And the professor from the teacher's college, they always came and checked up on them and met with you. And I knew this guy because he had been one of my professors at teacher's college when I had gone. And he said, yeah, I think it was a girl. I'm trying to remember. He said, yeah, she's not happy with the mark you gave her. And I said, no, probably not. And he said, well, can I ask why? And I said, well, it's in the notes. Because you had to do like anecdotal notes about the whole thing. And he said, yeah, she's a problem. She kind of thinks that, I said, God's gift to the teaching profession? He says, yep. And I says, well, I stand by that. So, he says, well, she's kind of threatening to refute this with the board of trustees at the university level. I said, go for it. I don't get paid to do this. We didn't get paid to be associates. Usually it puts you behind by about 2 weeks in your classes because you got to go in and straighten them all out after the mess that the student teachers left them in. So, there was an example of people that shouldn't have been in the profession. And why they were, I have no idea. I think they thought it was going to be an easy job. And you're going to get this fabulous pay.
And they get 2 months off in the summer?
Oh, and you get the 2 months off in the summer. Yeah, kind of a thing. A little behind here. Choose the public school. Fewer and fewer of those good teachers choose the public school system, and the older good ones are starting to die out. We're actually in a crisis right now in public education, but I'm not going to be a school teacher now. When the IT job I had paced literally 3 times what I would make, paid literally 3 times what I would make as a teacher in Kansas. Yeah. Oh, okay. Google dictate messes up my words sometimes. Sorry. Okay. I absolutely adore and respect anybody who has the fortitude and the will to be a teacher. I just realized that I wasn't one of those people. It's a sacrifice, but some people thrive on it, and I applaud you. God help us if we don't get more people like that, because the school system needs some desperately. Yes, they do. And the government in our country anyways is not making it any easier to find well qualified people. In fact, if anything, they're discouraging people from going into the teaching profession. And so the people that are going into the teaching profession are, one, have no idea why they're doing it. That's just because they think it's going to be glorious.
Well, I've known, like, there was a lady I used to work with that started off being a teacher, and she couldn't handle it because she came from an environment or a country where the education was a privilege to go to, so the students would basically hang off of every word the teacher would say. She wasn't used to walking into a classroom in Canada where there were discipline problems, and she couldn't deal with it.
Yep. And that's one of the difference between our country or North America in general, I think, to some of the places in Europe and in China and in Japan and that, the lack of respect for the education system. They want everything served to them on a silver tray. And then you get students, and you always knew when you got students in your class who came from a culture that really respected education because they worked darn hard. All the time. In fact, in some cases, and especially Asians, have a great respect for education, and to the point where it's almost the other extreme. Those kids don't get a chance to breathe and have like a normal life growing up as teenagers because they're constantly being told they have to study and study, and they put them in school in the summertime and they
on weekends
and stuff like that, and have tutors for them the whole bit, and they don't get a chance to breathe. So that's the other extreme. In terms of that. But anyways, yeah, this is Labor Day weekend. The kids are going back to school on Tuesday, and all of my teaching friends that still teach are probably really drunk by now on that, and because tomorrow night will be the worst night of the year. Oh, I used to hate Labor Day night. Oh, I absolutely hated it because that's when you start having teaching dreams. I still get them sometimes. And mine always involved me being naked in front of a class and nobody really noticing, except me. Don't know what that says. But yeah, so to all my friends out there that are teachers, and to those of you that may not be my friend, but you're still a teacher, good luck, enjoy, hope the year's good for you, and yeah, hang in there. So anyways, I think it's time that we go. Mm-hmm. So thanks for everybody that joined in today. Maybe not the most stimulating conversations we've had before, but
if you have any ideas on another conversation in the future,
yeah, let us know, because we're starting to run out of ideas here of what to talk about. And if we run out of ideas of what to talk about that you might be interested in, it means that I'll just have to go on about my mother. So there you go. Is that a threat? Yeah, that is. Okay, so have a good weekend. Those of you that are celebrating the long weekend, hope it's good. Those of you who are teachers, welcome back to school. Hope it's a good year. Mm-hmm. And have a good one. And we'll see you. Oh, next week, Stephen Walter Live will be 1 hour later because I'm teaching an art journaling class next Sunday. So instead of 4 o'clock Eastern Standard, we'll be on at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard. So that's next week. So talk to everybody then and see you soon. Have a good one. Say goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye.